we are Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince!
Vince, today's question comes from me!
You?
Yes!
You too?
Yes. YouTube.
YouTube.
No, today's question comes from me. And today, we're going to be talking about writing comic books. The question is, would you really want to write comics? Now, we talked about this theoretically before. Like, if you had a chance to write any comic book you wanted to, what would it be? What would you work on? That sort of thing. But what we're talking about today is what the industry is actually like and what it's like to work in the industry. And if we think that that would be something that we could, that we would enjoy doing, that we could deal with, is it... Would we find it too relentless? That sort of thing. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I'm putting 10 minutes on the clock. Once again, sometimes the timer doesn't seem to matter, but we're going to try it anyway. So 10 minutes on the clock. Here we go. All right.
I'm going to say this first before viewers are like, well, of course I want to write comics. Ideally, writing comics shouldn't be a big problem. Why? Because provided you have an audience, provided you have an unencumbered way of releasing product to the masses, and you not necessarily being accountable to anybody, if you're just writing something and you're just trying to make it as good as you can, it has nothing to do about marketability, you don't have somebody standing over you saying, yeah, put that in there, oh yeah, and put that in there too. And if you are by yourself with your artist making a product, making something that's not necessarily marketable, but you're trying to make something that's well written, well drawn, and well put together, of course you'd want to write comics.
Yeah, me too. I guess what I should do is I should amend this. Yeah, and I mean, I'm doing that right now. It's fun, sure. I don't care if it ever sells because I'm enjoying the process.
Right.
I should probably amend that to, would you want to do what it would take to make a living in comic books? Because here's the thing. If you could be absolutely positive you could completely make a living writing a comic book for one of the lesser companies, like not the big two, but just like, you know, all I do is write one book for Image and that pays my bills, that'd be awesome. Because it wouldn't be connected to probably any other books, or at least not very many like it would be Marvel DC. You're not having to deal with a giant continuity and where you have to keep up with things and where you have mandates and things like that, where you could just simply, I'm writing one book right now, and then later on I can be somehow rather sure that I'm going to get more work, that sort of thing. Here are, in my opinion, the things that make writing in comic books the most difficult. I'm going to start with this, and we'll branch off into some other things. Two giant things. If you were working for a smaller company, and you're actually paying the bills, that's awesome for all the reasons I just stated. But you can't always be sure that you're going to get regular work.
Right.
So that's the first thing. Basically, and this is not wholly true, but on the whole, but like for the most part, if you have the creative freedom you want, you can't be sure you're going to be able to make a living at it. That's the first thing. That's not always true. I know this, but often it is.
I mean, there's a lot of people that keep their day job. Why? Because they can't lose it. They need it.
If you're working for one of the big two, you might be, and you're working on like a regular monthly book, you might last longer, although unless you have an exclusive contract, you can't be sure that you'll always have work there either. But you may last a little bit longer if you're writing a major regular title. But then there are much larger headaches there because you have mandates from on high that tell you, first of all, you can only use these particular characters because we have these other ones being used at other times. And the hardest thing, I think, keeping up with all of those years of continuity and not stepping on anything, and knowing also everything that's going on around it right now. So those are the biggest difficulties, and those are the things that so A, you don't have job security necessarily in either direction, and B, you don't always have creative freedom.
Yeah. You know, that's the thing is that in my head, if somebody said, "Hey Vince, would you like to write say some DC book?" Doesn't matter what it is. Would you like to write this thing? And remember that it's going to be integrally connected to the Bat books, to the Justice League stuff, and everything that's happening with the New 52. I'd say, okay. I'd say, okay, you guys, I'm going to produce something bad because you're tying my hands.
Really, but you'd actually go through with it.
I think if somebody were to offer me the chance, I'd go through with it. I'd give it a shot. I'd give it the old college try. But
I'm not sure you'd necessarily want to if you like were used to writing comics and you had a lot of creative freedom before. Although a lot of major writers and artists have of course done this because they've worked with DC before and they generally like working there, and they've been not especially happy with it, you know. And I hate to just sit here and DC bash, but guys, a lot of the folks, I mean, I know this from people I've talked to and from from some articles I've read, but actually from some first-hand accounts, and I'm not going to name any names, but from some of the people that I've talked to, people are not generally really excited about working on New 52. Generally, some of them are, certainly. I think because some of them have more creative freedom than others. But some of them, I mean, I haven't heard any horrible things from Scott Snyder, and the guys writing Supergirl seem to love what they're doing and things like that. But there's some other folks that, especially some of the major, long-standing writers and artists who are used to working there, who are tired of being told. Who are tired of rewrites. Recently, and you know what? I'll say this one because this came out in the press. I read this in an article, so I think this is fair to talk about. George Perez came out and said, "I didn't love doing Superman." He left after the 6th issue because. And I don't know if they told him they didn't want him to work on the book anymore, or if he just got fed up and left. I'm not sure exactly how that worked, but basically he got sick of rewrites. You know, he would write something, and it would go to them, and they didn't know exactly what they wanted, and then they would change it without telling him. And anyway, it was bad, and it was less that they would change it without him telling him, and more that they would make him rewrite things because he wasn't told what all the 52 stuff around it was because all of that was thrown together so haphazardly and so quickly that like they didn't even know. So all of a sudden they would find out, oh, this book is contradicting this thing you just did, and apparently he didn't even know Grant Morrison was doing a Superman book 5 years before his. And so all these things Morrison was doing that would impact his book, he didn't even know about it. And creatively, he hated that. He couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are the sorts of things that I think would make it extremely difficult, especially right now in the current climate, to work with that particular company.
You know, a rewrite, I think some people might hear, oh, they forced him to do rewrites, how awful would that be? Well, consider this, every book, so many rewrites. It's not like you're sitting down and rewriting a movie for the 6th time, just trying to get it perfect before you produce it and release it. You're trying to produce monthly work, and you're forced to do a lot of rewrites. That
Plus,
suck.
If in comics your name is big as George Perez, you ought to be able to expect to be treated better than that.
Yeah, like where's the trust, you know?
Yeah, you think they're asking Morrison for rewrites every week?
Yeah.
You think Morrison would do it?
You think Frank Miller would do it?
No.
No.
Well, Frank Miller won't even put books out half the time.
He won't even make a sequel that's worth a crap.
But sorry. This is not another Frank Miller bashing session, Vince.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. But anyway, so
hey.
So my big thing is I don't think I would enjoy it as much. And Vince, I can see where you're coming from, where you'd be like, well, just to get the chance to write those characters. Yeah, but if you're not really writing them, if it's just my name's on it, but what actually got put out wasn't really what I did.
I mean, that's like the movie Natural Born Killers, to my understanding, was originally written by Quentin Tarantino. But the last and end result of this movie was so far from his original concept. He's like, I don't even care if my name's on this thing.
Yeah, same thing happened with Whedon in the original Buffy movie.
So yeah, I mean, like, look, I came up with a good concept, so it's conceptualized by me, but it's not what I wanted. It's not what I've written. It's something significantly different. Now, some people would say that what came out was either worse than the original intent or better than the original intent. But
plus, it seems like, I mean, that's super frustrating, but it seems like it would almost be, on a personal level, well, I don't want to say it would be more frustrating in comics, but it seems like it should happen less in comics because there's less hands in the pie. You know what I mean? Like, okay, there's less money involved. A lot of those giant changes in movies happen because of budget cuts and things like that, you know? In comics, there's not as much money involved. When it's just these other books contradict this thing, so you have to change it, that's infuriating.
You know, I kind of wonder whether or not DC and Marvel are just or specifically DC, are just so scared that things aren't going to sell that they feel like they have to have their execs with their hands on the pencil as the people are writing. Like anybody writes with a pencil anymore. And
drawing, sure. And then, of course, by doing that, they're creating something worse than what was originally intended.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, you know, I think in Hollywood, rewriters, whatever you call those people, the people who script doctors, they're sort of the Hollywood, monkey on a typewriter, and.
Yeah, but you don't need that in a comic book.
In comic
Nobody
books,
else should have to touch it except for the guy who wrote it, unless... And sometimes you'll need rewrites when your editor says, no, that's not going to work because it contradicts continuity. Yeah, okay, but you need to at least know what the continuity is. I guess I'm talking specifically New 52 right now. There are definitely mandated things that happen at Marvel, but I think that because it's so far gone at 52 right now, Marvel feels like the writer's playland now. You know what I mean? And it's not compared to IDW or compared to Image or to Dark Horse, but you feel like you got more freedom than you did over there.
The writers of Marvel are like, wait, you're telling me that I only have to worry about continuity and characters that I can't use because of licensing? Really? That's it?
It's not licensing. It's because of it's because of I just want to say this. It's because of like bigger grandiose plans. Do you realize that we're still talking, of course. Do you realize that Marvel has different offices for different major characters? They have a Spidey office, they have an X-Men office, and what the editors do is they don't just hire writers to sit down and say these are the plots we've dreamed up. Oh no, they very often get together with their biggest writers and dream up things themselves and say, we're going to get writers to do. I mean, they're going to have some creative freedom, but ultimately, AVX wasn't. It wasn't Jason Aaron going, hey, I want to do AVX. These kinds of things. I mean, I think a lot of the time they are dreamed up by writers, but they're ultimately approved by these head offices, and they decide when they're going to happen, and they decide what's going to lead up to it, and they ultimately say, okay, we've got plans for these particular characters. Nobody can use them until we get there. So for instance, when I talked to oh wow, why can't I think of his name right now? The guy who was doing Green Arrow. J.T. Kroll. When I talked to Kroll, he said that he has forever been begging DC since they canceled it to let him do a question book. He loves the question. He wants to do a question book. And with New 52, he was like, hey, maybe this is my chance, because maybe they'll do a question book for the New 52. And they wouldn't let him do it. And he kept asking, and they kept saying, no, we can't let you use Question right now. And we have no interest in doing an ongoing book. And then we find out that Question is involved in Trinity War, in this new big epic event that's about to happen next year. So anyway, that's an example of they've got plans for these characters, and that's why they can't. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. That has nothing to do with anything.
Indeed.
Sorry.
What kind of bothers me about the whole Marvel way?
I'm making this sound really depressing, aren't I? I really don't mean to do that. I
guess I'm just
sort
of the question's point, I think, is outlining the difficulties of the industry.
Yeah, I guess I'm just putting this into perspective a little bit for maybe some of our viewers that don't really know a lot about the industry. I love comic books as an industry, but it's an industry, and I think that it's more. I don't want to say industrial. That's not the right word. It's industrial, and people are losing their hands all the time working there. No,
I was going to say this earlier. I think I know where you're going with this thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's such
the comic mind is a very dangerous place.
It's such an assembly line way of doing things. It's coming down from the top. You get what you can work with, and then it comes down to the people who actually put it together. And
plus, it's really commercial in a way that it didn't used to be.
Exactly, and that's why it's really sad with what they're doing with Marvel. But that's if what you're trying to do.
Did you mean DC or did you mean Marvel?
I meant Marvel. But what having
you have a group of people.
You have a group of people that dream up what needs to happen, and then it kind of gets commissioned out.
Well, the same thing is with DC, though. I mean, it's exactly the same.
Well,
way,
what I'm saying is that at least it's well thought out at Marvel.
Right now, yeah.
And at DC, it's kind of like, all right, you're doing this, do what you want. But hang on, let me put my hand in the pot real quick.
Here's the thing. I think it's like professors at colleges having tenure. I think if you are considered one of the powerhouses, you've got a lot more freedom to do whatever you want to do because you're seasoned, because you're proven, you're a commodity for them, and so Fraction's going to have more freedom to do the things Fraction wants to do, and Bendis owns the universe. I mean, he writes 12 books at a time. Not that many, but he gets close. And these sorts of guys, Hickman's getting there where he's starting to get more and more carte blanche to do what he wants to do. I think. I could be wrong about that. But
Professor Lowry is seasoned enough that he has tenure.
Jason Aaron more and more is getting more, freedom to do whatever it is that he wants to do. But then you get the smaller guys, and they can't do that. And so you could say, well, all you got to do is work your way up the ladder. It's it's standard American capitalism. It makes sense for what it is. Okay, to a point, but at the same time, they're not always. Sometimes the money-making machine gets in the way of storytelling. That absolutely happens. And so the question, going back to the actual question at hand, because now we're just kind of talking about the industry, could you personally deal with that, knowing that those are the headaches that you would have to run into? Would you, knowing that it would be a long time before you felt like you were actually getting to be creative at the level that you'd like to be, could you deal with it with the hope that eventually you'd get there, having to still work a day job, to pay the rest of your bills, and all that sort of stuff? Would it be worth it to you just to have your names on books? That's the question. For me, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure it would be worth it to me. Yeah, I don't know if I would actually. I don't know if I would actually want to go through that.
I'd give it a try, but I don't necessarily know that I would want to either.
It sounds really cutthroat, and it's also in a somewhat failing industry. I mean, I guess it's better now than it was a couple of years ago, but that's not saying a whole lot. You're not talking about a major industry. It's an industry that wants to think that it's bigger than it is, but I mean, it's not. You look at it versus any other major media in this country and any other really, and well, I mean, I guess it's bigger in Japan, but I'm just saying that American comic books, you don't have millions of readers. If a TV show only gets 1 million viewers when it's first aired, that show's not going to last very many episodes. Yeah, you know how many people buy comic books? About 100,000, 200,000, and that's a really, really good book. I mean, that's a book that's selling well. That's not a very big industry. It's a really small industry.
So that's why it's hard to get a hold of Zorro. I already knew that. I just wanted to say that.
Don't even get that joke. I'm sorry. I don't even know what that means.
It just keeps failing. So, and okay, I've had people say to me, like, I can't order that book for...
Oh, get a hold of the book. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know what we were talking about. I was like, what? Like on the phone?
the issues of Zorro.
Yeah.
The comic book issues. As opposed to his emotional problems.
I guess this is one of those topics where I had a lot I wanted to say on it, and I'm not sure you did, so I'm sorry. I didn't mean
that's fair.
I didn't mean to run off on this one.
I think my bottom line is, hey, anybody wants to hire me to write for comics, feel free, shoot me an email. That I just don't know if I'd really be into it at Marvel or DC right now.
That's the thing, is that it would naturally, of course, take a lot of work. Like, you wouldn't just get a phone call. I mean, and you know that.
I know that. I just thought it'd be funny to say.
But I guess part of the question is, would you be willing to do the work that it would take to get there? Because it's cutthroat. It's really hard. You know what I mean? Like if I'm like you, and I kind of am, and I'm wavering, like, I don't even know if I would want to do this. I wouldn't want to go through the process. Like, I'm not sure I'd make it. I'm afraid I'd get eaten alive. Like you'd have to really have a passion for it. And I have a passion for comics. I just don't know if I have enough of a passion for comics that I care that much that my name has to be on them. On the characters I love and always wanted to write. Another thing too is I'm always like, I'd love to write Venom. Well, not really. He's being written pretty well right now, and a lot of things have been done with that character. It seems like by the time you get your hands on it, what's left to do? These characters are so old.
I think it was Jason Aaron that said this. I think it's a really interesting thing that people are like, how's it feel writing Punisher Max? He's like, well, it's cool that I'm writing Punisher Max, or at least was writing Punisher Max, but now I'm not reading one of my favorite books because I already know what happens.
Oh, that's really interesting.
So, I'm like, somebody said, "Hey Vince, you're a big Ghostbusters fan. Would you like to write Ghostbusters?" I'm like, "No, well, not really, because that would mean that I'm not reading Eric Burnham's Ghostbusters."
Yeah, yeah, and no offense, dude, but you could never get close to Burnham, but you couldn't.
I don't know. I'm not going to say I would. I'm just saying I like him so much.
Yeah,
he's doing such a good job.
But okay, I'll say I couldn't get close to Burnham. I mean, like with those characters, I don't think I would have the voices for him like he does. Like,
yeah, I'm not sure either.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just like, I can't imagine a better Ghostbusters book than that book, but
indeed.
But whatever.
Indeed. It's great.
Well, did I actually just offend you?
No.
I couldn't tell.
I'm full of it, right?
I was like, really, Vince? Because if you really think that you could possibly write,
I will out Ghostbusters him any day.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you. I'm gonna send him an email and be like, so my partner on Geekvolution, Vince, thinks that he can write a better comic book than you. You want me to send you a draft? He'll be like,
I'll send him a beer and a draft.
I think this is probably the best place to stop. So anyway, thanks everybody for watching Geeks Not Nerds, and leave comments. Let us know what you think about this topic. Again, I feel like I was kind of ruthless on this. I really didn't mean to be, and I hope I didn't like squelch anybody's hopes and dreams for writing comic books. I'm just saying that me personally, just the way the market is right now, I'm not sure I would want to try to jump into DC or Marvel. There are a lot of other companies that I would love to write for because I think I'd have more freedom, but I don't think that I would make a living at it. That's the thing.
I mean, keep your options open. I mean, study different genres.
So leave your comments, let us know what you think. Also, if there's something you'd like us to talk about in a future video, leave that in the comments as well. Of course, as we keep saying, we're going to be taking a hiatus all the way through July, so this is the last GNN you're going to get, as well as all the other fun videos we're posting today. So enjoy everything else we're posting. Hopefully that'll tide you over a little bit until we come back in August. And thanks as always for watching. We'll have another Geeks Not Nerds for you here in a few weeks. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince, reminding you to support your local comic book store and come back and watch us in August.